Morning, everybody. So in this video, we'll talk about owner-operator performance. A lot of times when drivers talk about, driving performance, they're looking at like uh, how many miles per week, or how many miles per month, or miles per year. And I listen to them, and I listen, to a lot of different stories. Guys boasting, they're like, I got incredible miles, it's fantastic. I got, a gazillion miles. And I just stay quiet, because I know I've been driving truck for about 11 years, been owner operator most of that time. And I see guys come and go, and who are the guys that stay? Who are the guys that last the longest? The ones that, are just, day in and day out, just grinding it out. It's the guys who put balance in their business model, and they don't always focus on miles. It's I think it's something that newer owner operators, and like, they just came from being a company driver, so now they're an owner operator, and they're making better money. And of course, naturally, they're eager. They bought a truck, and they're ready to go, and they're going to run the tires off that truck, no doubt about it. But here's the thing: being an owner operator is more like being in a marathon than being in a sprint. Because this is what you're going to be doing for the next 20 years. It's like, why are you in a hurry? You're going to be doing this same thing 5 years from now you're doing today. And it's something where I think a lot of times guys are eager to make a lot of miles because they're finally making halfway decent pay, and it's exciting. It's great. You're earning a living income. You're not struggling paycheck to paycheck anymore, and you got plans for that money. Um, but here's the thing: as the miles go up, other areas go down. For example, let's say your health. You know, guys can get incredible miles, but you look at them and you're like, you realize you're 300 pounds. You could play in the NFL as a lineman. Um, they don't look good. I mean, not that they need to look great, but they don't look healthy. They don't look like a a someone who's going to be viable. Like they're going to be able to maintain this for 20 years. They look like they're about ready to drop dead any day now. Because they're running themselves right into an early grave. So they don't have balance in their business model. They're too focused on getting miles and generating revenue. Their health is going down. What else goes down? Safety goes down. It's guys who are so focused on miles and and maximizing gross revenue. These are the guys who are taking unnecessary risks. A lot of times I'm cruising along at 70 miles an hour, and here comes another owner operator, probably somebody on the spot market. They're doing 75, 80, and then they're going right through those construction zones, 10, 20 miles an hour above speed limit. So here is productivity. The pursuit of making money is making safety suffer. So your health can suffer, safety can suffer. You put a lot of other people at unnecessary risk on the highway when you drive recklessly like that. It's because you're too focused on the miles. Your priorities are not properly aligned for a long-term career. you know because karma's going to catch up to these guys. It's like you keep driving and have bad driving habits, the odds are sooner or later that's going to catch up to you, and that's the driver that's going to lose their CDL, and their driving career will be over if they're not dead. Because uh, they'll probably be in an accident, and they may not survive. So, you know, everyone wants to talk about making money, and getting great miles. And I would say, well, that's true, but you want balance. So when you talk to guys and they're boasting about the miles, and I don't say anything, because none of it's just talk. It's like, that's fine, let them talk. But I know that for me and the people um, that I'm friends with, other owner operators, we don't look necessarily just at miles. We want the whole picture. We want to maintain our health. We want to drive in a safe manner, and we want to be productive, and we want to provide a high level of customer service. So these guys who get mad when there's detention, they're too focused on miles. It's like there's plenty of other things you can do as a small business owner while you're on detention. That's a great opportunity to catch up on your accounting, your receipts, and look at your maintenance schedule. I mean, there's probably 100 other things you could do for your business while there's downtime. Whether it's unplanned maintenance or unplanned detention. So this idea of rush, 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 rush is really not the way to go, in my opinion. My opinion is just take your time, recognize this is a marathon. This is going to be your way of life as an owner operator. You're not a company driver. You don't have to go out there and impress the world about how many miles you're getting per month or per year. I know a lot of owner operators don't want to go above 100,000 miles for the year. And why is that? It's because they want to take more home time. They have priorities that are above driving. It's like the driving and being an owner operator is their source of income, but it's not their total life. They have a life outside of driving too, and they want to spend time doing that. There's guys who only drive 9 months out of the year. They take the winters off. There's drivers that travel outside the country, you know, a few months out of the year, and then they come back and then they drive and then they go back overseas, and they put balance into their business model, because you know they recognize that they need downtime, you need R&R, you need rest and relaxation. You need to stop and smell the roses from time to time. If all you're going to do is chase miles, I think you're going to burn yourself out. And you're gonna run your truck into the ground too. You're going to spend more time in a repair shop uh, than you want, because you're not maintaining the equipment, and you're going to spend more time with doctors down the road because you didn't take enough time to do things like get an annual physical with a primary care physician, or get out of the truck and walk 3 miles per day, or spend time researching different nutrition and diet plans to take care of yourself. So this is the trap that some drivers fall into, is that they they want they want those miles. And I get it, but typically that's probably a junior owner operator or a company driver. Company drivers under forced dispatch get a lot of miles, a lot of miles. That's It's not uncommon for a company driver under forced dispatch to get over 130,000 miles for the year. Do you really want to do that as an owner operator? I would suggest no. You probably want to get less miles, take more home time, you know, take better care of your health, drive more safely, maintain your equipment better, and just put balance everything. Because the guys who are successful as owner operators year over year over year, these are the good habits that they develop as a small business owner. They don't get in the habit of racking up the miles. That's too short-term focus. They're looking long-term. They're thinking 10 years, 20 years out. They're got business plans that are 5 years out. So this week, this month, this year, not necessarily, going to be make or break it. It's like, yeah, good week, good month, good year. That's okay. Bad week, bad month, bad year. That's okay too. So, but if you really want to be successful, you know, don't think miles. Think balance. Put balance in everything. Keep your weight down. Keep your nutrition good. Get out and exercise. Take some R&R. Maintain that equipment. The miles will be there. It's like you'll have plenty of miles. I know guys just turn down miles so they can go home. They just like, I don't need the extra pay. What I really want is a week off. That's great. That's perfectly fine. So keep that in mind. When you hear guys talk or boast about how many miles they get or how productive they are, just look at the whole picture and say, well, yeah, it's good for you, but that's not how I would want to do it. All right, guys, so I got for you. Good watching. We'll see you on the internet.